You spent hundreds, maybe thousands of dollars on the best ice fishing gear, top-of-the-line sonar, the sharpest auger, the perfect rod. But have you ever considered that the one thing costing you fish is your bright yellow jacket? Today, we're tackling a question that divides anglers everywhere. Can your bright clothing literally be the reason you're going home empty-handed? Stick with me, because I'm going to show you some surprising evidence and on-the-ice observations that might just make you rethink your entire winter wardrobe. The answer isn't as simple as yes or no, and it might explain why that quiet old-timer in the dull grey coat always seems to outfish everyone. Before we dive in, let me ask you this. Do you think a fish can even see you through a foot of ice and snow? Let me know what you think in the comments. Walk out onto any popular frozen lake, and what do you see? It's a city of bright, vibrant colors, neon green shelters, high visibility orange bibs, electric blue jackets. For years, the industry has pushed these colors on us, mainly for safety, which is incredibly important. But this has created two distinct camps of fishermen. In one camp, you have the guys who say it's a total myth. They believe the fish are deep, they're focused on the lure, and they couldn't care less if you're wearing a disco ball on your head. In the other camp, you have the traditionalists, the stealthy hunters. They swear by drab colors, camouflage, and minimal movement. They believe any unnatural shape or color from above will send an entire school of perch fleeing for the next county. This debate has raged on for decades because it's so difficult to prove definitively. We're not down there with the fish to see what really spooks them. So today we're going to break down the factors that matter and finally put this argument to rest. First, let's get into the fish's world. To understand if your jacket matters, you have to understand how a fish sees. Their eyes are positioned on the sides of their head, giving them a nearly 360-degree view of their surroundings. This is a survival mechanism. They're built to spot danger from all angles, especially from above. Think about their primary predators, birds like herons, eagles, and ospreys. These threats always come from the sky, so a fish's brain is hardwired to constantly scan the surface for any shape or movement that signals danger. This isn't a conscious thought, it's a pure, primal instinct for self-preservation. They don't stop and analyze whether that dark shape is a bird or a fisherman's boot. They see a threat, and their immediate reaction is to either freeze or bolt. Understanding this fundamental instinct is the first step in figuring out how our presence on the ice truly affects them. Now let's talk about their window to our world. A fish doesn't see the entire sky like we do. Due to the way light refracts or bends when it hits the water, a fish's view of the surface is limited to a specific circular area directly above it. This is often called the cone of vision or Snell's window. Imagine you're a fish looking up. You'd see a bright circle above you, and everything outside of that circle would be a distorted, mirror-like reflection of the world below. The size of this window depends entirely on the fish's depth. A fish in 5 feet of water has a much wider view of the surface than a fish in 30 feet of water. This is a critical piece of the puzzle. It means that your potential to be seen by a fish is directly tied to how deep you're fishing. It's not a one-size-fits-all situation. The threat you pose in the shallows is vastly different from the threat you pose in the abyss. So, with that cone of vision in mind, can they actually see your jacket? The simple answer is yes, absolutely. If you are standing, kneeling, or moving anywhere within that circular window above the fish, you are visible. To the fish, you appear as a silhouette against the bright backdrop of the sky. It's a dark, ominous shape in a place where threats come from. This is true regardless of what color you are wearing. A dark gray jacket and a bright orange jacket both create a shadow, a break in the pattern of light that the fish is used to seeing. This is the baseline effect. Before we even get to the debate about color, we have to acknowledge that our physical presence itself is the first and most significant disturbance. Many anglers forget this. They'll sneak around in drab clothing but then stomp their feet or drop their gear right over the hole, creating noise and vibrations that are far more alarming than any color. But here's where the debate really heats up: the role of color. Does a bright orange jacket look different to a fish than a dull brown one? Yes, it does. But not in the way you might think. Water is a powerful light filter. As light penetrates deeper, colors on the visible spectrum begin to disappear. The first color to be filtered out is red, then orange, then yellow. Blues and greens penetrate the deepest. This is why the deep ocean appears blue. So if you're wearing a bright red jacket and fishing for lake trout in 50 feet of water, that jacket will appear as a dull, dark grey or black to the fish. The color itself has become completely irrelevant. However, if you are in 5 feet of clear water, that red or orange will still be visible, though slightly muted. The color matters, but its impact diminishes dramatically with every foot of water depth. Now let's add another crucial layer to this scenario. We aren't just standing on open water, we're on the ice. Imagine the typical scene. You're fishing on a lake with a solid 12 inches of ice, and on top of that, there are another 6 to 8 inches of packed or fluffy snow. This layer of snow and ice acts as a massive light diffuser. Think of it like the frosted glass on a bathroom window. It scatters the sunlight in every direction. It turns the harsh, direct light from the sun into a soft, uniform glow. This completely changes what a fish sees when it looks up. Instead of a clear view of the sky with your dark silhouette, it sees a bright, white ceiling. The details become incredibly blurred. Your precise shape is lost, and the sharpness of your outline is gone. This natural camouflage is a huge factor that many anglers rely on, and it's a powerful argument for the side that says clothing color doesn't matter much. This ice and snow filter is the great equalizer. It essentially provides a blanket of camouflage for every angler on the lake. When a fish looks up through a foot of ice and a layer of snow, your bright yellow jacket doesn't look like a bright yellow jacket anymore. It just looks like a slightly different shade of brightness on an already bright ceiling. The contrast is severely reduced. It's like trying to spot a polar bear in a blizzard. Your form blends into the background. In these common midwinter conditions, the argument that a specific color will spook fish becomes much weaker. The fish's world is already so obscured by the ice and snow that the subtle difference between a grey coat and a green one is likely imperceptible, or at the very least, not alarming. This is why you can often see anglers in all sorts of high-visibility gear, catching plenty of fish right next to guys in full camouflage. So, this is the core of the argument for the color doesn't matter camp. They contend that under most typical ice fishing conditions, with a decent amount of snow and ice, the natural diffusion of light provides all the cover you'll ever need. Your movements, the vibrations from your auger, the sound of you walking around, these are the things that are truly spooking the fish. They argue that focusing on the color of your jacket is missing the forest for the trees. You could be wearing the most advanced snow camo pattern in the world, but if you're clumsy and loud on the ice, the fish will know you're there long before they ever see you. This perspective is based on prioritizing the senses that travel most effectively through the ice. Sound and vibration, rather than sight, which is so easily obscured. But hold on, because we have to consider a completely different scenario. What about those magical days during first ice or late ice? The days when you walk out onto the lake and it's nothing but a sheet of clear black ice. There's no snow cover. And the ice is so transparent you can see the bottom in the shallows. In these conditions, the entire dynamic changes. That massive light diffuser we just talked about is completely gone. The frosted glass has been replaced with a crystal clear window. Now, there is very little obscuring the fish's view of the surface. This is a game-changing situation, and it requires a total shift in our approach. The rules that applied under a blanket of snow are now thrown out the window, and stealth becomes paramount. On clear black ice, your presence is magnified tenfold. That natural camouflage is gone. When a fish looks up, it doesn't see a uniform white ceiling. It sees the sky, the clouds, and any object breaking that pattern. Your silhouette is now sharp, defined, and incredibly obvious. And it's not just your silhouette. The colors you're wearing are now much more visible. That light scattering effect from the snow is absent, allowing more direct light and truer colors to penetrate the ice. This is the scenario where the stealthy old-timers were absolutely right. On clear ice, you are an intruder in their world, and your every move and every color choice can have a direct and immediate impact on your success. This is where the debate shifts from theory to undeniable, observable reality. Let's try to see it from a perch's point of view in this specific situation. It's in 6 feet of water, swimming under a sheet of black ice. Its entire life has been spent looking up for threats, loons, mergansers, eagles, which appear as dark, natural-colored shapes. Suddenly a massive, two-legged form appears overhead, and it's a color that exists nowhere in nature, a shocking, high-visibility lime green. This isn't just a shadow, it's a massive, alien color patch moving in its sky. The fish's brain doesn't have a category for this. It doesn't register as safe. It registers as wrong and dangerous. The immediate instinctual response is to flee. It's not about the fish being smart. It's about the fish being hardwired for survival. Unnatural colors and movements trigger a flight response, and once one fish spooks, the rest of the school often follows. It's also important to think about the element of contrast. On a bright, overcast day with snow on the ice, everything above the fish is a shade of white or gray. Your jacket, regardless of color, doesn't create much contrast. But on that clear, black ice, the situation is reversed. The ice itself is dark. The water below is dark. Now, when you wear a bright orange or yellow jacket, you are creating an extreme point of contrast against that dark background. You become a massive, bright beacon. It's like turning on a floodlight in a dark room. This high contrast signal is incredibly easy for a fish to spot from a distance. A dark blue or drab grey jacket, on the other hand, would blend in much better with the dark surroundings, creating far less of a visual disturbance. Let's also consider that different fish species have different temperaments. Some fish are just more sensitive to overhead threats than others. Highly pressured panfish, like big bluegills and crappies that see a lot of anglers, are notoriously spooky. They've learned to associate overhead shadows and movements with danger. They will often scatter at the slightest provocation. On the other hand, aggressive predators like northern pike or lake trout, which are often the apex predators in their environment, can be less concerned with what's happening on the surface. They are more focused on hunting and may tolerate more of a disturbance from above. So, the species you are targeting should also influence how much you worry about your visibility. Here is a perfect real-life example that proves this point beyond any doubt. Imagine you are sight fishing. You're targeting massive bluegills in 5 or 6 feet of crystal clear water. The ice is black, and you can see every detail on the bottom. You can literally watch the fish swim up to your jig, inspect it, and decide whether or not to eat it. It's a fascinating way to fish. Now, once you have a few fish gathered around your hole, try a little experiment. Slowly take your brightly colored glove, say a vibrant red or orange one, and wave it back and forth over the hole. The reaction is instant and dramatic. The fish will scatter in every direction, disappearing into the depths. This is undeniable proof that in shallow, clear conditions they can see you, they can see color, and they will react negatively to it. So it's becoming clear that the shallow water factor is one of the most important variables in this entire equation. As a general rule, if you are fishing in water that is 10 feet deep or less, you need to be much more conscious of your visibility. In these shallow environments, the fish are physically closer to you. Their cone of vision, that window to your world, is at its widest, meaning they can see a larger area of the ice surface. The light penetration is also at its maximum, so colors are more vibrant and details are clearer. Any mistake you make, a sudden movement, a dropped piece of equipment, or wearing a high-contrast jacket on clear ice, is much more likely to be noticed and to have negative consequences. Shallow water fishing is a game of stealth, and your clothing is part of your equipment. But what about the other end of the spectrum? What if you're not chasing shallow panfish? Let's say your target is walleye, and you're set up over a deep basin in 30, 40, or even 50 feet of water. Does the color of your jacket matter when you're fishing that deep? This is where the argument for stealthy clothing starts to fall apart. At these greater depths, the physics of light and vision work in your favor. The fish's cone of vision is now incredibly narrow. It would have to be positioned almost directly underneath you and looking straight up to even have a chance of seeing you, and even if it did, the view would be of a tiny, distant circle of light. This is what we can call the depth argument. The deeper you go, the less your visual presence on the surface matters. At 30 or 40 feet, a huge amount of light has already been filtered out by the water column. The colors of your clothing are completely lost, appearing as muted, dark shades. The ice and any snow cover further obscure the view. The chances of a walleye or a lake trout looking up from that depth and being spooked by the specific color of your jacket are practically zero. It's just not a significant factor in their environment. At that point, you are so far removed from their immediate world that your visual signature is negligible. This is a crucial distinction that many anglers fail to make. They apply the rules of shallow water fishing to deep water scenarios where they simply don't fit. In these deep water situations, other factors become far more important than your clothing. The number one fish spooker in deep water is vibration. Fish have an incredibly sensitive lateral line that can detect the tiniest pressure changes and vibrations in the water. You stomping around on the ice, dropping your tackle box, or scraping your shovel creates vibrations that travel down through the ice and into the water column with surprising efficiency. To a fish, these are loud, unnatural noises that signal a large, potentially dangerous presence above. The sound of your gas auger firing up can send shockwaves through the water that can be detected from a long way off. In deep water, being quiet is infinitely more important than being invisible. So after weighing all of this evidence, a clear pattern begins to emerge. The answer to our original question is not a simple yes or no. The importance of your clothing color is not a universal rule. It is entirely situational. It is a sliding scale that depends on a combination of three key factors. First, water clarity and ice conditions. Second, fishing depth. And third, the species you are targeting. On one end of the scale, you have sight fishing for spooky panfish in shallow water under clear ice. This is where your clothing choice is absolutely critical. On the other end, you have fishing for aggressive predators in deep water with a thick layer of snow on the ice. This is where your clothing color is almost completely irrelevant. Most of our fishing trips fall somewhere in between these two extremes. With this knowledge, we can also bust a common myth. You do not need to run out and buy expensive full-body snow camouflage to be a successful ice angler. For the vast majority of fishing situations, that is complete overkill. The goal isn't to become invisible like a spec ops sniper. The goal is simply to avoid creating a high contrast, unnatural disturbance. Often all you need to do is switch from a high visibility orange or lime green to a more neutral, muted color. A simple gray, a dark blue, a drab olive, or even a plain black jacket will break up your silhouette and reduce your visual footprint enough for most scenarios. It's about being mindful and blending in, not disappearing entirely. It's about making a smart, tactical choice based on the conditions of the day. Here is the ultimate test, a simple experiment you can try on your next trip. Go out with a buddy. One of you agrees to wear the brightest, most obnoxious gear you own, the full neon ensemble. The other person should wear the most boring, drab colors they can find, grays, browns, dark blues, set up relatively close to each other, fishing for the same species in the same general depth, preferably under 10 or 15 feet. Fish for a few hours and keep an honest count of how many bites and fish each of you gets. Don't change any other variables, use the same bait, the same technique. Just isolate the clothing color. I think the results, especially on a day with clear ice, will speak for themselves and will make you a believer. Seeing it happen in real time is more powerful than any theory. So, what's the final verdict? Can your bright jacket ruin your fishing trip? The answer is, it absolutely can, but only under a specific set of circumstances. It's not an old wives' tale, but it's not a universal law of fishing either. The biggest takeaway here, the real aha moment, is that it's not the color itself that's the problem, but the context in which you wear it. On clear ice, in shallow water, while targeting spooky fish, your bright jacket is a giant flashing danger sign that will clear out the area. But in deep water with thick, snow-covered ice, it's probably completely irrelevant. This changes how you should approach the sport. It means you need to think tactically before you even leave the truck. Look at the conditions for the day and choose your gear accordingly. Be a hunter, not just an angler. Thanks for watching. I hope this video finally cleared up some of the debate for you. If this made you look at your fishing coat a little differently, do me a favor and hit that like button and be sure to subscribe for more content that goes beyond the basic tips. Now, I want to hear from you. What's the one fishing myth that you absolutely swear is true? Let's get a real discussion going in the comments below. Stay safe out there and tight lines.